Hi, I'm Paul Germain, and welcome to another session of Smart Boating. As you know, if you've watched the show before, we cover a wide variety of topics from anchoring to electronics. And the idea is to provide you with some information to help you make smarter decisions and have more fun on the water. So today's show is a little different. We're going to look at the construction of wood boats, wooden lobster boats up in Maine. And joining me is an expert in that area. His name is John Johansson. Welcome, John.
Welcome. And I'm not sure I'd call myself an expert, but go ahead.
All right. Close enough. You know a lot about these boats.
Right.
I think. So
Yeah.
Why don't we dig into that? It is going to be a very interesting show here today. It's something a lot of people don't know much about. But before we get into it, can you share a little bit about your boating background and your current involvement?
Okay. I'll do my boat building background, which when I was a kid, I grew up in Mattapoisett, Massachusetts, and I grew up next to Alan Veitz's boat shop.
Okay.
So I got a pretty good idea of all kinds of construction because he built in wood, he built in cement, he built coal molded and fiberglass.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So.
All right. So you got a lot of good background.
And for the
starting
last
in
40
young
years, yeah, I've been running Maine Coastal News in Maine.
Yeah.
Which is a newspaper, and I visit all the shops.
All
So I'm one of the lucky guys that go in and actually can see what goes on every month in the shop.
Yeah, you are lucky. You're very lucky. And you've got just the right background for this show. So why don't we get right into it? We're going to talk about planked wood boats. We're going to talk about cold molded wood boats. And it seems like regardless of which path you're going down, we're going down planked first. That you might want to start with a drawing. So I have some drawings up here on the screen right now. It looks like some framing in the back, and it looks like the drawings are nailed to the floor. What's going on here?
Well, actually what that is, the white pieces on the floor are painted pieces of plywood.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
And what happens is the builder will start either with a half hull or with a set of lines.
Yep.
And then they'll take the measurements off that at a station.
Yeah.
So they've divided up the half hull in stations and then taken those measurements and blown them up on the floor.
Yes.
So that's called lofting.
Okay.
And then from there, they make the patterns, which are in the background standing up.
Okay.
Those are called station patterns.
Okay.
And so now then you put that on a backbone. And some people build boats different, because when I worked with Alan Veitz's, he built his boats upside down.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't do that.
Yes. Yep.
And, but I've even seen that done in fiberglass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Because somebody told me once that it's a lot easier to clean the floor than it is to clean the bilge.
That's a good point.
So this one, those station molds are pretty easy to build. And when we get into the cold molded aspect, I'll tell you how they do it, which is a little different.
Okay. What's cooking here?
Now, here you have, unfortunately, we don't have the stations still left in. He's removed them. But what he's done is he put the stations set up on the backbone, which is basically what you see is the orange part.
Yes.
And so from there, he's put what we call ribbons that go down the side.
Okay.
And those are attached to this station or parts of the station molds that are still left there, so that you get the full shape of the boat, both sides.
Okay. All right.
And here he is actually starting to steam in the frames.
Okay. He's steaming it because he has to bend them.
Right. And it doesn't take too long to steam them, and it's actually kind of fun. You get this great big box, which is about, I don't know, 1.5 feet square on the ends, and can be anything, because I seen one that was 20 feet long, because they did big projects, bigger boat.
Yes.
So this boat here, they steamed the frames in a matter of a day and a half.
Okay. All right. So that's a critical part of it.
And now you can see, if you look down at the turn of the turn of the stem, the forefoot.
Yes.
Basically, you start to see that the planking's starting to come up. So he's already started the planking.
Okay.
Now this one is done a little different. Now what I remember as a kid, they would plank the boat upside down and come right down to basically the shear plank.
Yes.
He doesn't do it this way.
Okay.
So hit the next slide.
All right.
And you can see that there's a hole in the middle.
Yes, I noticed that. Yeah.
So he comes from the top, comes down, and goes up.
Yeah.
And he likes to put the plank in the middle. Now, some don't like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always tell a really good boat builder by the planks lining up on either side.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because some of them, they don't really do that.
Right.
But most of these boat builders, they're very, very fussy, especially wooden guys.
Yeah.
Things have to be just so.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a view from the stern to the...
Yep, to the bow.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got all your frames in. Those are the ribs going up both sides.
Okay.
You've got your floor timbers in, which are the white pieces.
Yeah.
And then the longitudinal pieces are the engine beds.
Yes.
And then further back here at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see those are basically what down in Jonesport we call shop risers, and other places call floor timbers.
Okay. All right, so that's the next step. And then
Yep.
how about here? We're looking back at the transom.
We're looking at the transom. The transom would have been set up separately and put together when the boat was being framed up. So you can see the frames inside, and then it's planked, and then it's just put in separately and attached to the planking.
Oh, that's interesting.
As the planking comes by, they will screw it into place.
Okay. All right, some pretty heavy-duty timbers in here when I'm looking at some of the main pieces here.
Yep. And it's interesting because there's a wooden boat builder named Doug Dodge down in Jonesport, Beals Island. He's actually on Beals. That actually does more longitudinally because he went to aircraft school. Even though he learned from one of the best boat builders in Maine, which was Harold Gower, who built on Beals Island from 37 to 78 or so. And Dougie likes to put his strength 4 and a half.
Do it like an aircraft. Yeah. What type of wood are we typically looking at here?
Okay, so
oak or pine or?
So your backbone and your frames and your floor timbers will all be oak for the most part.
Yes.
And then there's an argument about red and white.
Yeah. Right.
And then there's some old sayings that you have to follow that if it smells bad, that's red oak, and you don't use it if it smells bad. It smells like the kitty litter box. Is basically the saying is.
Right.
And then the planking is cedar. Now, sometimes they've used mahogany.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially depending on where you were, it depends on what was available.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, here it is, all planked up. So they are now caulking the hull, which means that they're rolling in cotton, and then they turn around.
The old-fashioned way.
Oh, yeah. And then they turn around, and then they run seam compound in it.
Yes.
Now, it's interesting because some boat builders, there is a above waterline seam compound and a below waterline seam compound.
Interesting.
Ralph Stanley, who was a noted boat builder in Southwest Harbor, he always used the upper seam compound, the top side seam compound, on the bottom too.
Okay.
So doesn't Peter Buxton.
Okay.
So you can see in this one, because the bottom one is a different color. It usually is a kind of a brownish color.
So these things need to swell a little bit once you put them in.
Well, yeah, they're going to go. So now you see that the hull has been painted.
Yes.
So basically that's your next step with the hull done. And you can also see that the house and the trunk are on, and what we call the shelter, which is basically the windshield in the top. We call that the house.
Okay, the house,
The house, So now they're starting to put the paint to her. This was a relatively simple boat.
Yeah.
So there was only a V-berth down below. I don't think there was a head or even a galley.
Okay.
It was basically a day boat.
It's a work boat.
No, this is actually a pleasure boat for a customer out of Port Clyde.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. And this is the boat with the finish coat on.
This is getting the finish coat, which is Kirby paint, and which is old-fashioned paint made in New Bedford.
Yeah.
And so he still makes it the old way. What worries me is there's only one, just George there last time I was there. So you kind of hope that there's longevity.
Yeah.
So
well, this is the end of this series, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go into Johns Bay Boat Company.
Yeah.
See, there's still a good number of boat builders. Well, there's not a great number of boat builders, but you've got, for wooden boat builders, you've got basically Peter Cass, which we've got here, which is Johns Bay Boat Company. You've got Peter Buxton, who hems and haws about continuing. You got Richard Stanley. You got Joe Lowell. I'm probably forgetting some of the other ones. There's Tim Clark, some of the guys that work on the big schooners that could still do this type of boat building.
That's a pretty boat. What is that, about 42 or something?
This one's probably bigger than that. I think it's a 46. And this is the last one that Johns Bay Boat Company launched. They launch it in the traditional way.
Yeah.
You can see the house next to it. That houses the engine for the winch.
Yes.
And this is sitting on a real cradle, not jack stands.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is the real thing right here. And look at the.
Now
this is no ordinary lobster boat.
No, and Peter is well known for building lobster boats. But he can also build very nice pleasure boats, as you can see.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who really cruises all the way from Canada or all the way down south in his yacht. He uses it all the time.
Wow, that's nice. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so this is
the helm station, all done in mahogany, varnished. It's really, really nice to go on board his vessels. He does a really, really super job when, putting them together.
Yeah, this is very...
This thing probably took a year to build.
Is that right? I was going to ask you about that, yeah. About a year from scratch to the water?
And the one that Peter Buxton did that we looked before, that was basically the simple lobster boat, pleasure boat style.
Yeah.
That only probably took 9 months.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
and that was only 2 people.
Yeah.
There was only 2 people.
All right.
Whereas Peter usually works with 2 or 3, sometimes 4, and Peter being the 5th one.
Yeah, he oversees and everything.
Well, he does a lot of the building. He'd rather just build.
Oh, okay. And you get a little galley here, if you will.
Yeah, real nice little galley.
Yes, very nice.
And you could see the cup holders.
Oh, right. I didn't notice those. This is a look forward, right?
This is a view down below.
Yeah.
He has somebody come in and does the electrical system. The head is to starboard. A nice V berth up forward. You've got another berth here to the port side.
I saw that, yeah. So a lot of room on this boat.
And you can tell it was in the Hershaw finish. Now, a Hershaw finish is that the walls are painted white and trimmed in mahogany that is either varnished or cherry varnished.
Right? Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's a Hershaw finish. This is one actually being launched at Johns Bay Boat Company.
Yeah.
This is the same yacht going down the ways.
Yeah.
This is a lobster boat that he did. I believe this is Twilight. This is a boat that comes out of Cushing, which is halfway up the coast of Maine.
Okay.
And so this is at Royal River Boatyard in Yarmouth being redone.
All right.
This is another one that has come back to Johns Bay Boat Company. A lot of the customers come back to have their boats redone.
Sure.
And
bring them back to the original guy. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that, but if the original guy built it, he knows how to take it apart and fix it the right way.
Sure.
So when I took my boat back there, it was just done this winter.
Yeah.
And it came back out looking new.
Right. Because the original guy.
Well, and they also have standards.
Okay. And here's the final. This is the stern. Yeah.
So when Peter started, he started using Carol Lowell's design. And so the ones up to about 2000, 2001 were all Carol Lowell designs. And then he started doing his own design because the boats got bigger and wider. And these fishermen wanted, to carry more stuff. And to do that, he had to alter the design a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is how many feet? This is again.
That one's probably 45 to 47.
And 12-foot beam, 13-foot beam.
Yeah.
Pretty beam.
Some of them go even bigger than that. They'll go 15, 16 feet.
Wow.
Because they're trying to get as many traps on the boat as they can, especially if they're fishing offshore.
Right.
But you also notice in this picture, that's a split wheelhouse. So that means there's 2 steering stations.
Yeah, okay.
There's an outside one for hauling.
Yeah.
And there's an inside one when it's kind of nasty out.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of the time.
Right. Yeah, that's a pretty boat.
Yep.
Well, that's the end of that series there.
And now we're going into cold molded.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. That's something that I think is a popular topic down south. I wasn't familiar with the term up here in this area, but it's a certain way of building a pretty light and strong boat, right?
It's actually, think about what plywood is. It's basically cold molded.
Yes.
So this is done a little different. So your designer sends the design to, or can send it to a company.
Yeah.
Or you can do it the long way and actually loft it yourself and then build all your stations.
Yeah.
But what's easier today is that you send it to a company that cuts in CNC machines, and they can cut all those stations out. You can see the stations still left in here, and they are now putting the ribbons on so they can build the center line keel.
The ribbons are those
These
narrow
pieces on the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they got kind of a framework underneath there.
Right.
And they
So
have
that's the
ribbons running on
stations.
top.
Those are the stations. This is a 55-foot Wheeler.
Okay.
Wheeler was a company that most people would remember. Ernest Hemingway owned
Yes.
one called
Right.
Pilot.
Right.
And
Right.
she's still alive in Cuba.
Yeah.
But Wes Wheeler is a nephew, I believe, of the brothers that were owners of the company. The company went out of business in the 60s. And he's resurrected it and brought it to Brooklyn Boatyard. This is where this is being built.
Oh, okay.
And this one went out last 2 summers ago.
How many foot is this?
This is 55 feet.
55 foot. Okay.
And this took about, I think, 18 months to complete.
A year and a half. Yeah.
Right,
Do they
but-
have a crew on that?
Oh, they got a big crew.
They do.
And it's interesting because a lot of people complain about crew and stuff. This company, I've never heard them complain about crew. People love to work for this company.
Listen, it's a very well-known name, very famous name. Now, what's going on here? What
So
would
you
people
can see,
pay attention to?
so you can see that they're putting the chines in. So that basically piece on so it's on the starboard side, but you gotta remember you're upside down.
Yes.
And so that's a chine. So they're now going to get ready to put the layers of wood down. And so you usually do 4 layers. So you do 1 fore and aft.
Yeah.
Then you do 2 diagonals at 45 degrees. And then you do another 4 and aft, which is you're going to be your outer layer.
This reminds me of the old PT boats.
Yep.
That's the way they did them. They had multiple layers and diagonal and
We'll
that
see.
whole 9 yards.
Alan Weitzies, who I grew up next to, that's how he did it because that's who he worked for. He worked at the Hershoff Company in Bristol, Rhode Island, building PT boats.
Yeah. What's going on here?
This is another view from the bow showing the chine in and them getting ready to actually start putting in. You can see that basically the stem's in place and the keel all the way down. It's not as big and as thick as what you would do in a traditional wooden boat, but it's still staunch enough so that it doesn't have any issues.
Yeah, I believe it.
Now here it is covered. So in this case, because the boat is kind of flat,
yes,
you can use actually you use plywood.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah, you don't need it to bend too much.
Nope.
It's relatively, yeah. Those are big sheets of plywood.
There's a lot of plywood.
It's a lot of plywood, yeah.
A lot of plywood.
Yeah. But, and what is it, 3/8 inch?
Probably.
1/4 inch? Because they got how many layers? They got 4 or 5 layers on this
Now, they
thing.
probably only used 1 sheets, and I would think on some of this because it's so flat.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she's well heavily built. And you can see some of the strip here. You can see the glue in the seams as they're putting it together.
Okay. So they're putting these sheets of plywood on the kind of the framework, if you will, and they're gluing them together.
Then they got another layer on top of it,
Okay.
which is the layers that I said of the wood going fore and aft or diagonals. This is a diagonal layer.
Okay.
And here it is almost complete. So guess what? You get to fair it out. And that's fun because you get what we call shoulder breakers. And those are these long sanding boards. And so you sand.
I think I know what you mean, actually.
Yeah. There's some of them are real long. There's some of them are 3-4 feet long, and you just kind of sand it so everything is perfectly smooth.
Yes. That's a big job, huh?
Oh yeah, nasty job.
Yeah.
On the body, not health-wise.
Yeah. Now, are you putting some sort of adhesive or something between the layers of the?
Between the layers, you got West epoxy.
You do. Yeah. Okay, so you put the layer on, then you coat it, then you put the next layer on,
and then you staple it down.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, and then you vacuum bag.
Oh, you do vacuum bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some real weight savings in this type of construction, aren't there?
Yeah. And this has all been tested. They did a lot of the testing up at the University of Maine to make sure that that you're structurally within the bounds that you need to be.
Oh,
and a lot of those guys will then take it to another level. So say you need it 50 pounds, they'll make it so it's 100 pounds.
Right.
So that they're covered in case there's a failure.
Right.
Nobody wants a big failure.
No. And again, the woods are similar. Are we using oak here again?
You're using some
except for
whatever
the plywood.
The plywood. You're using a lot of mahogany, planking. you know, so.
It used to be very popular. Well, that's what they built all the PT boats out of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so here you are, you can see, and there's a layer of glass on top of her now. You can see that they've covered it with glass. So that protects the wood from water. And because
so that's
water
the thing, once you get done with all these different layers, you put the glass on top of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then give it a protection. Even inside, they'll get a coat of epoxy on the inside so that there is no bare wood left.
Oh, okay.
You know, because you want to protect the hull from any possibility of having an issue down the road.
Right.
You know.
And well, of course, it's marine plywood, right? So it's, even if water gets in there,
but
it's
even then, you got to
quite a
be
long
careful.
time, right?
You got to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, what I'm thinking, weight savings here, 15-20% over traditional building?
Sometimes in these boats, they didn't care about weight saving.
Oh,
the only one that really cares about that is
construction technique.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And making sure it's strong enough to withstand anything that this boat could possibly get into.
Right.
You know, the weight savings really come into those people who like to race.
I see. Okay.
Either lobster boat racing
I
or
guess that's what I had
sailboat.
in my mind. Yeah.
Sailboats like to, you know, build very, very light.
Yeah.
Just another photograph of showing how they're doing it.
And again, they're building from the bottom of the boat
down. So
yeah.
now they'll do the sides. That's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
And now you see it all completely. Here they are sanding it using a longboard.
Is this the fairing you were just talking about?
Yeah.
Big job.
And you can see the hole up here. That's what we call the bow blaster or bow thruster.
Yeah.
And so all of these boats, even some lobster boats today have bow thrusters, which most of the old fishermen make fun of.
Right. Yeah.
And here we've turned it over.
Mm-hmm.
And Brooklyn Boat Yard, like I said, is very, very lucky. They always have a crew of 15, 20 guys on this boat.
Wow.
And some of them are not on the boat itself. If you look just to the port side, you can see a deck being laid up. It's underneath the mezzanine to the left.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the shelter and the deck. And when they get to such and such a point in doing the interior of this boat, so they're going to put in all the bulkheads, as much of the interior as they can, and then they'll put that deck on.
Yes.
Because if they have to move anything in, they don't want the deck on.
Right.
You
So
know,
there's a certain order in which this all has to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And these guys have done it for so long.
Yeah.
I think the first boat they did was back in the late 80s. They did a boat called Vortex. Mm-hmm. And that was for Steve White. Mm-hmm. And Steve was the owner of the company.
Oh, okay.
And his father was Joel White, who was a designer, actually trained out of MIT.
Yeah.
And his father was E.B. White, the guy that wrote Charlotte's Web and all of that stuff. So, and a lot of people know who E.B. White is. Well, this is the son and the grandson's business.
Wow. Yeah. So it's all kind of planned ahead. You can see the pieces coming together.
So now that deck is no longer to the left of the boat, as you can see, it's now on the boat.
Yep.
And they just, basically, they move it out. And I wasn't there for the moving, but they have overhead crane. And they just set it down.
Yeah, right.
And so now that most of the interior is done, except probably for systems and varnish work and things like that. And now they're going to have to, now to the left, they're going to build the windshield and the top.
Okay, all right. Build the pieces and then they install them.
Yeah, and you can see, these shots are pretty much taken every month.
Oh, they are.
Because every time I go in there, right now they're doing a 56-foot sailboat.
Yeah.
And every month it's totally different than the last month I was there.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
Yes.
But you can see how the things are starting to go on and piece together.
Evolving, if you will.
Yeah, and here's the windshield with the top on it and slowly being put together. It's all done in mahogany.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yep. And here's a bow shot of her. They've already laid the deck, which is teak.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
The houses are going to be topped and probably done with Dynel, which is pretty close to looking like canvas, and then glass. Okay. Because the worst thing like we said before, water is the enemy of a wooden boat or any boat. Not so much glass, but you don't want water coming in. And you can see up in the bow, they've got places for the anchors.
Yeah.
And she's getting pretty close to being done here.
Yeah.
Now, on that mezzanine that we saw back in the earlier photograph,
Yes.
that's where all the furniture for the interior was done. And this is one of the shots that I took of one of the navigation seats.
Oh, okay.
So this is, and some of these guys, as you can see, have been there a while.
Yeah.
Some of them I've known ever since I started, so it's almost 40 years. And they're just remarkable craftsmen.
Oh, I bet.
And they can do this quick. This
Really?
is like
Is that
nothing.
right?
They do it in their sleep. Look at the whole arm is curved.
Yes.
Beautiful job.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
And here's the boat nearly complete.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to put in the details.
Yeah. Yeah.
And get ready for launch.
And you paint this like a normal plank boat?
No, you take that into, sometimes, but a lot of times with these boats, they take them into the paint bay and they're actually shot with all grip or...
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in this step of construction, you should, like you say, if you're able to prevent water from coming in, it should be a very durable hull for quite a long time.
Oh, it's a very durable hull.
Yeah.
Just as durable as I think as a fiberglass hull.
Is that right? Yeah.
So long as any boat you take care of, you got to take care of these things. You just can't. The worst thing is owners. They'll drill a hole and not protect what they drilled, and then they get water inside, and then
bad things happen. Yeah.
Oh, a lot of bad things happen.
Yeah. This is beautiful. Boy, that's a ton of mahogany. I don't know what a boat like this uses for engines, but
this one's probably 1,200, 1,500 horsepower engines. They're twins.
Twins. Okay.
Yeah. This is the day of the launching.
When was this?
This was 2 years ago.
Because this is a classic hull shape. This isn't the kind of hull shape you see.
This design, this design came from the 1930s, and it was modified. They have a designer on board called Will Sturdy, and he also works for Peter Cass at Johns Bay Boat Company, the traditional boat builder.
Yeah.
So he does work for him.
Yeah.
But he kind of helped put this boat together.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to modify probably some of the underwater to make her a little quicker. Because a lot of advances have been done with hydrodynamics.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
It just has the traditional lines. I mean, if someone showed me this photograph, I'd say, well, that's something out of the 20s or the 30s or something like that. Yeah.
And those who live on Cape Cod will see this boat, because I think this boat runs around southern New England and will come up to Maine in the summers. So she gets around.
Yeah, that's good. It's good someone's using it. Well, I think this is our last shot on the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's the last shot there. It's been really interesting to learn. It's a very interesting process, the way these guys put them together, whether it's the planks or the cold molded. And
there's a lot to it.
There is a lot to it, yeah.
And the old guys were really good, because when you put together planks, there's a lot to consider, because the last plank is going to have a bevel that doesn't equal the next plank. And so you got to change all of that.
Right.
And you got to hollow them out so they fit to the ribs. And there's just a lot to it.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. And those old guys, they did that. It was like, easy.
Yeah. Well, they were craftsmen, very, very high.
Some were, some weren't.
Okay, all right. Well, some were.
And some were a little rougher than others, but a lot of them, that boat was only going to last them 7 years, and that's what they figured.
Right.
Well,
we've got to close out the show today.
Yep.
Very interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we...
I don't think so. I think that, we covered it pretty well.
Good. All right. Well, thank you for joining me.
No problem.
And thank you, Smart Boaters, for viewing this program. If you have any comments or questions, please visit us at smartboatingus.com. Thank you.